Hi everyone, and welcome to my fifth and final video. I'm going to try and wrap this whole series up with this video. This basically covered everything from basic HTML all the way up to CSS. I might get a chance to do a remote or external CSS include file, which won't take that long, but I'll do that afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and get started again. And one thing that I'm going to do differently is rather than flipping back and forth between Eclipse and Firefox, I'm just going to use Firebug from now on and just edit my CSS in this directly. So I'm going to go open Firebug, go into the edit portion of my CSS, and start editing my CSS file here. So I'll do #menu, and this will give you a chance to see how it affects the rest of my page in real time, I should say. So ULLIA. And because I've already set my height for my parent item, so my anchor tag is within my list item, and my list item has a height of 20, if I do 100%, then my anchor tag will automatically pick up the height that it should be. And then I'm going to do color of white, and that'll change that. Give myself a little bit of padding. Let's say I want to do half a pixel on the top and the bottom, or half a font size, and that's all that EM is a font size, and then one font size for the left and the right. Okay, now if I bump this up to 40, then you notice that it looks a little bit better. It's a little bit too much space, so I'm going to do 30. So now my list item is styled and ready to go, but let's say I want to change this whole thing and I want to do it with a horizontal menu rather than a right navigation menu. I'm actually going to switch this from right to left again, and you can see how that gets affected. One thing that I just noticed is I made a mistake when I was doing my CSS, and instead of using padding here on my menu, you'll notice that my content actually bumps back up correctly. And that's the drawback of using floats, is things will move around a little bit if you don't have it set up correctly, and that's why it makes it difficult for people to learn CSS and div tag layouts. But instead of using padding, use margin on your child item. So instead of menu on UL, I'm going to do margin 2 pixels, and it gives me the same effect that I wanted, but it doesn't affect the items around it. And that's one thing that is good to know. But the other thing that I wanted to do is, and I'm actually just going to copy this, put it into a backup style that I have over here. The other thing, and notice I'm not changing anything besides my CSS. I can completely modify my vertical menu system to be horizontal by changing a few things. So I'll copy my other CSS that I have here, paste it in, and you'll notice my menu system is now horizontal. And what I basically did was I updated my unordered list. So my margin is 2 pixels on the top and 0 pixels left and right, and that's all that this is shorthand: top and bottom, left and right. 0 padding. This is still floated to the left for my UL. My menu has a width of 100. So if I were to change this to 100%, it still has the same effect. And if I go down to my list item, those are floated to the left. I don't have a width designation, but I do have a height, and I have a little bit of padding applied to them. And same thing with my anchor tags, and this gives me a nice horizontal menu. If I wanted to center this, I just go up to menu, text, align, center. Oh, and that's because my things are floated. If you want to center something, there is a workaround. I'm not going to get into it because it is kind of confusing. You have to do absolute positioning and then also float things to 50%, then negative 50%, and it just gets confusing, so I'm not going to do that right now. But you might want to look into that down the road. So if I were to do 50%, that I'm just going to keep it. So we have a basic layout right here as it is. Down the road I might add in a couple videos which I've already kind of done videos on creating a layout in Photoshop and then converting it to CSS, so I'm not going to cover that now. Make sure you check that out. It should be export from Photoshop or slice from Photoshop and create CSS and HTML or something along those lines. So go ahead and check out those videos. I've gotten really good feedback on those ones, and I think I've done a better job on those than I did on this. And my next series, I'm going to cover jQuery, and I'm also going to cover a series on PHP down the road, which I think will be very useful. That's what I do all my development in, so I'll be able to explain that stuff a little bit better. But if you guys want to stay tuned for that, hopefully I'll have more time in the next couple weeks to get that stuff done. But have a good night, guys. One thing that I forgot to add before I finished my last video was the external CSS include, and I'm just going to do that right now. I'm just going to copy everything I have in my style sheet in Firebug. Right click, oops. I'm just going to do Control-C for copy. Go over to Eclipse. Add in a new folder, so I'm right click new folder, click on my parent HTML basics folder and create a folder name of styles. Oops, not styles, CSS. Click on finish, and inside of this new CSS folder I'm going to add a new CSS file, and this one I'm just going to call styles.css. Click on finish, delete this, paste in my styles, save my style sheet, and now the only thing I'm going to do is get rid of this style. So I'm going to put in a link tag, link hrefs to ./CSS. So in my root directory or my current directory, I'm going to look for my CSS folder and styles.css, give it a type of text/CSS, and close that. And if I save and refresh the page, oh, I missed something. Type CSS might be source. Nope. Alright, the one thing that I was screwing up on, and I'm starting to get tired, so I'm going to finish up this video and head to bed, but I forgot to put in my relevance attribute and style. Oops, style sheet. So if I save it, refresh my page, and then I actually have an included CSS style sheet. So if I were to come over here, open my style sheet, change my color of my header from 333 to, let's say I want a red header, save it, refresh, and now I have a red header. So that's pretty much everything that I'm going to cover with my basic stuff. And like I said, make sure you look forward to my upcoming videos on PHP and jQuery.